All right, Miss Lauren, welcome back for another soulful politics episode. I'm so excited to dive in today. How are you feeling? How are you feeling?
I'm jazzed. I'm ready to go. I got my shirt on, my protest shirt. I'm, this Aquarius energy is hitting me. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. It feels like in some ways so much has changed since our last recording. And yet, I don't know, I'm not really fully capable of understanding what's happening with time right now. I think it's a little bit difficult to like keep my feet firmly planted on the ground, especially after
Yeah.
January. Like
Yeah.
what even happened? But I'm so excited to tune in today. Folks who are joining for the first time, thank you so much for being here. You can not only tune in to us here via the podcast, but also check us out. Come watch our faces on YouTube if you'd like to come hang out with us there. Today, we're going to be talking about the role of Minnesota in the ice siege, kind of like what they've been doing for America. We're also going to look at TikTok and censorship in the United States, free speech, and then we'll be wrapping things up by looking at Trump's health, and not just Trump's health and what's happening with his health, but like also what may be in store for us after he passes away, steps out of office, whatever the heck may happen. There's a couple of different things, but just a reminder, if this is your first time tuning in, you can check out episode 286 to listen to our intro episode where Lauryn and I both kind of dive in and explain like what our ideologies are when it comes to politics, certainly our purpose for this podcast. But suffice it to say that our purpose truly is to empower you in these times, to give you a higher perspective of what's going on, also to help you see the spiritual perspective of what it is that we're moving through right now. So this is kind of like our second diving into topics episode. Make sure to check out 293, where we dove into the Epstein files, ICE, Russia, that connection between Putin and Trump. That was an action-packed episode. And I don't know about you, Lauryn, but like we recorded that at the beginning of December. And
Yeah.
so many of the things that we talked about, we've actually already seen taking place, especially with ICE and the role of ICE in the United
Mm,
States.
yeah.
Been pretty wild, hasn't it?
It has. We've been sending each other messages like, "Oh my gosh, we said this in the podcast, and now like here's the headline." So it was affirming for us to see that okay, this is helpful and we're connecting correctly. Not so good that it's happening, but yeah, a lot's been happening.
Yeah. Well, you and I, I believe that we both have really big hearts for what is taking place right now.
Mm,
We want to be of assistance and service to the collective. And because we are very psychic and nicely attuned, there's a lot of information that you're going to be learning on this series. So
hmm
make sure to just continue staying with Lauren and I on this ride. And feel free to comment, share with us about topics you might like to see us dive into in the future. So let's go ahead and just like get started.
Yes.
The number one topic that we're going to be diving into is Minnesota and the role that Minnesota has been playing for the United States, and certainly in the first like really huge ice siege. I think I felt really called to look at this from a higher perspective because what's been taking place in Minnesota has been, it's first of all, it's been horrific, but it's very clear to me that we are being woken up in a big way across a number of different topics. And Minnesota is really playing a huge role in this in regards to assisting us in preparing for what is to come over the next couple of years. And so, sending so much love and appreciation to the folks of Minnesota and those who have been on the front lines of all of this. I quite frankly can't imagine, and yet just say thank you so much because as a collective within Minnesota, you truly did come together to be of assistance to the collective of the United States at this time, and the Akasha really showed me that clearly. So Lauryn, do you kind of want to talk about this a little bit and I can kind of dive in with what came through the Akashic Records?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of mirror what you said, because I don't have as much to say about Minneapolis. Every time I kind of tuned into it, the energy for me just kind of like waned and I got pulled in other directions. Not saying that like I don't think things are going to continue to happen in Minneapolis, but yeah, I just like I want to say how I'm going to try to say this without crying, like how moving it is to see everyone in Minneapolis doing the things that they're doing and watching the community pull together. I think it sets such a strong example, especially watching people like negative degree weather out there rallying together and showing up for each other. It's just been like a fire under my butt personally. And yeah, I think that I also just want to give a shout out to all my parents too that are simultaneously trying to parent through through a fascist takeover and make chicken nuggets, for lunchtime. And I know how hard it is, and I think that's the one thing I keep seeing is people just I don't want to say losing hope, but it's like when is this going to end? And it's so hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And although we're not going to cover, the light at the end of the tunnel today. I just want to remind everybody that it is there and this will have an ending to it. It will not be this way forever.
Yeah, that's a really important reminder. And I would imagine, especially for the people of Minneapolis and those surrounding areas that have been, primarily affected by what's been going on. I mean, I can't even imagine going through that and much as being a parent in the middle of that. As you're talking, I'm just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm a cat mama. That's about it. But I've, just taking care of myself in the midst of this has been difficult. It's
Hmm.
been very emotional for me to watch things online. And because I was sick for the last couple of weeks, I was spending a lot of time, way more time online than I normally would. And so I was really kind of
Hmm.
inundated in like the minute to minute and wanting to know so many things. And of course, being very emotionally wrapped up in it.
Yeah.
And just crying, praying for the people who are involved.
Hmm.
Because I think for me, there's honestly nothing that causes me more pain than seeing one human hurt another human. This is just not something that I really have any sort of understanding or capacity around. So when I dove into this from the perspective of the Akashic Records, it was quite frankly so beautiful what came through. And again, I just want to offer up so much appreciation for everyone who has been dealing with this on a daily, moment to moment business, you know, who's been in it. Um, the way that the Akasha really showed me is that Minnesota as a whole, because of course we've had the big epicenters of what's been taking place, but when we look at the officials and we look at the people involved, it's very much the whole entire state, has really been serving as this like catalyst for a national awakening. Right. What's been happening there is we've been able to see the true nature of ICE's occupations very clearly. This myth around ICE existing just to manage criminality has, definitely been dispelled. We've also been able to start seeing clearly what ICE is as an organization, right? And the Akasha talked about this a lot in regards to this culture just being like, when a violence and ignorance, just unchecked power within this organization, I literally saw it as like these like crazy frat boys. And I'm not trying to put down frat boys, but it was like,
Yeah.
what happens when unhealed masculinity gets completely out of control,
Hmm.
and when what happens, what a lot of very wounded men come together and are feeding off of each other, right? Um, through these like awful events, right? It's just forcing a lot of public awareness and not just on a local level, right? But very much on a national level. Um, some of the things that the Akasha pointed out was, Minnesota is responsible for waking up Americans who previously were looking away. we've got people awakening on a pretty quick level right now. I don't know about you, Lauryn, but like people that I was like arguing, I should say debating with on Facebook, like people who private message me, old friends or kind of newer connections last
Mhm.
year are now like, oh wow, this is actually not okay.
Mm.
And I've been seeing it more and more, seeing people even online saying, you know what? I was MAGA. I did vote for Trump, and I was so wrong in this, right?
Mhm.
Um, but also government officials, right, who gave blind allegiance to Trump, right now they're totally freaking out. They're seeing things very differently. And, you know, what the Akasha said, they're like, without this like sacrificial sort of point that Minnesota, the role that it's been playing, lots of officials and systems um, would not yet be dealing with the consequences of what's going on, right?
Mhm.
And they're starting to actually really have to look at things very differently. Minnesota's also been playing the role of like a template for the United States, as we have seen communities coming together and rallying for each other. Also, how the strategies in which that they're enacting within the communities, for those who are undocumented, who are scared to go to the grocery store, even not undocumented, right? We've seen US citizens picked up. Um, but just in regards to like, okay, setting an example for the nation in regards to how to deal with ICE, also educating us with the best ways in which to navigate these situations, right?
Mhm.
Um, and what Minnesota's, it's really setting up this like preparatory phase for the rest of the United States, right?
Mhm.
So let me just kind of pause there for a second because I wanted to dive into ICE just a little bit more because a
Yeah.
lot came through on ICE.
Yeah. And I agree. I think that some of the cards that I pulled for today's podcast, like the we had the Three of Pentacles here. If we can see this, or my camera wants to adjust. And this is like literally Minnesotans coming together to literally build, hoist each other up. And like you said, I'm like seeing people barricading the streets so that they can mourn. And they're putting water jugs in the back of their car and opening them up and driving so that they can dump water on the street and let it freeze. So it's harder for ice to walk through. And yeah, picking up groceries and watching each other's kiddos so that they can go to protests. Like, I do think that they are totally setting the example. And when I asked kind of like where are they at now, it was awesome because I pulled the Emperor. The Emperor has full control over his domain. Like Minnesota said no. Like absolutely not. This is our block, our territory, and you are not gonna fight this. And so I think that was just so crucial to show ICE, to show the government, to show the rest of Americans. And I think they're going to have to hold that. And again, I'm not in any way saying I don't think ICE is going to let up. But for the future of this, I kind of was assuming it was going to continue. But when I tuned into it, I feel like it's actually going to take on more of a monetary um, pressure onto the people, because I pulled like the Five of Pentacles, which is like money, scarcity. And then I remembered, when all of this started happening, the government froze childcare services to Minnesota. They froze SNAP services. They froze TANF, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones I'm missing. And so
Mm.
they're being punished by taking away their food access, by taking away their childcare access. And so I do think that, I see it as a financial burden that might last a little bit longer than maybe the ice burden. And I think overall I said, okay, well, what's the long-term effect on Minnesotans? And I pulled the Ten of Wands, which is kind of like this accumulated burden of like having to carry it all on their back. And I feel like that kind of resonates with some of the things you're saying is they are having to carry a lot of this energy right now, and because they're the first, their burden might be heavier. Um, And I think unfortunately this energy is just going to continue to build up throughout February. And I see it happening in other cities. And so I'll kind of end it with, I don't want to dive into it too much, but I do see it happening and ramping up a little bit more over in LA, Portland, back where this all kind of like started. And so I would just say if you're watching from there, kind of be aware of that around mid-February. It might get really intense over there. And I just figured that out just using some geodetic astrology, but I won't dive into that too much.
Well, as we both know, February is going to be like one hell of a month, just
Yes.
left, right, and center with all of the things. So
Hmm.
I think that's great, though, that you can
Hmm.
kind of pinpoint where those things are going to be popping up. Not that obviously I want ice going there, but
Hmm.
even here in Colorado, it was like a week and a half ago, I started seeing on threads a lot people being like, all right, Coloradians, like, let's get ready, let's get prepared, let's start, putting things in so that we can be, because Colorado has such an enormous
Hmm.
Hispanic population here, and I know my community is like primarily Hispanic in some
Mm.
ways. And our asshole of governor, approved 3 detention centers last year.
Yep.
And so we've got big things coming for us. But again, kind of going back to what you're saying,
Hmm.
it's why, like, when I was channeling about Minnesota, like, my heart was just, I just wanted to like give so many hugs and so much deep appreciation,
Hmm.
because I did see like the weight of what they're carrying, it's honestly pretty wild too, because there was a time last year where I was actually really wanting to move to Minneapolis
Mm.
and was looking into it and researching it. And my
Yeah.
guides came in really strong. We're like, no.
Oh, interesting.
um, One of the things too, and I loved this actually, because that came through the Akashas, them very much talking about how, they said the American public is being pushed in order to push back,
Hmm.
right? Like, the thing is that when you think about this on a personal level, when we want to change something, oftentimes we have to get into, some sort of very uncomfortable position to actually make a big change, right?
Yeah.
Let's say we've been trying to get in shape for years. It's not until we go to the doctors and we get some sort of like diagnosis that's going to completely change our lives that we're like, okay, now I'm really ready to commit and to do it. And that's very much what I saw on the collective level, right?
Hmm.
And in regards to what is taking place, and like you mentioned, Minnesota is just, it's the beginning part of all of this. um so I want to kind of shift into a little bit again. Make sure to check out episode 293, because Lauryn and I really dove into ice. I just kind of wanted to the Akasha brought up quite a bit with ice, and I think it's important to kind of look at some of these things, because they really are shifting in regards to their tactics and like how they're going to kind of be operating. And we did touch on this before, but the Akasha definitely went deeper on this. So, a couple of things that are really coming up that I saw kind of immediately was, we are going through such like a huge reckoning collectively, right? And it's very much about looking at what this nation was founded on. And so many of the people who have incarnated on the planet at this time also were a part of the United States when it was forming in the
Mm.
beginning, and so we've got a lot of old wounds and a lot of collective pain around this. And ICE is really kind of representing so much of the oppression that was even present during that time. If you go through school here in the United States, you think like when they founded the nation and wrote the Constitution, everything was great and it was a big party. Yes, it was for the white men. And everybody else got screwed. The Native
Yep.
Americans, the women, the African Americans, like, it was terrible unless you were a white man. And not just like a white man, but like there were also like there was racism towards like the Irish and the, you know what I'm saying? It was It was very specific. And so we're seeing a lot of that really resurfacing right now. Um, but the Akasha was very clear in wanting to communicate that, ICE is mutating, and its tactics are mutating because of all the public scrutiny. And
Mhm.
so they're really going to be kind of like stepping back, hand quotations, right? They said like their appearance will soften, but the core directives are going to remain unchanged. And they're just going to start doing things more on the back end, more underground, and it's actually going to become much more insidious. And because they're going to be doing things more behind the scenes, there's going to be more abuse of the people that they detain. It's going to be much worse. There's going to be more murders. There's going to be so much. ICE is not going away anytime soon, unfortunately. And again, we have to be aware of these things. We have to understand what's going on. And the again, they just kind of talked about, I'm looking at my notes here.
Yeah.
The escalation risks are going to be increased surveillance,
Mm.
privacy violations,
Yep.
ICE showing up homes, neighborhood schools, which of course they're kind of already doing.
Mhm.
But like I just shared this video on Instagram where this guy in Minneapolis was talking about how ICE is really shifting their tactics. Like they're sending out emails to parents about food
Yeah.
programs. They're starting to wear plain clothes. They're driving around in vehicles from like local business owners. So people think that local business owners are pulling up to their house instead of ICE so that they can get past people with whistles. Like there's a number of different things happening. And I just really encourage you to stay very educated on what is taking place, and to stay plugged in. It's honestly one of the reasons that I've stayed on Threads lately, even though I want to duck out. I feel like there's a lot of important information there to help me stay
Mhm.
abreast of what is happening. Um, and the Akasha, what they really kind of wanted to um, push forward with kind of this whole topic of Minnesota and ICE is the importance of local government right now. We have to require our local officials to get involved, to push back, to say no. And this means hitting the streets. Sure, if you want to make a phone call, that's fine, but that's kind of old paradigm. Like we need to really require our representatives to do something about this because they can. And those who are not are choosing to not. And that's really where a lot of the protection is going to take place. And so the Akasha was very clear that like civil engagement is necessary moving forward.
Mm.
Obviously, all on our own terms, we're called to different things, but this is not a matter of like, oh, hey, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines,
Mhm.
especially I think for those who are turning into the podcast.
Yeah. And I have on my Instagram highlights, I have like a little American flag, and I've got a few resources shared on like other ways that you can participate if you're like, how do I do that? I don't want to show up to protest, or I'm disabled, I can't do that. So feel free to go there if you're like, I don't know where to start. Um and yeah, just to I don't really have anything to add to this other than like as you were talking, it made me remember a few things, and like I can't agree more on ICE and how much worse it's going to get and the tools that they're going to be using. Like I remember a couple months ago asking my husband like, are they going to use, like, is there a tool out there where like they use sound to like hurt
Oh,
people's ears or heads or something? And my husband was like, yeah, that's a tool, but they're never going to use that, blah, blah, blah. And then literally like 2 days ago, I saw that they're using some sort of, I can't remember the official term, but it's some sort of thing you only use
LARD.
in like, what, sorry?
It's the LARD. It's like
Thank you.
long
Okay.
range.
I knew it was like a four-letter acronym.
Yeah.
Um, And it's like, yeah, you only use it in riot control, like huge mass groups, and they're using it in at protesters. Like ICE is using this. And I'm seeing like videos of them having tactical gear that is way unnecessary. Obviously, they're using it and they're not trained with Renee, with Alex Petty. Like it's um I don't mean to scare, but I think we just need to be smart and prepared. And my concern, and I'll talk about this more when we move to TikTok, is the surveillance. Because as we move into Uranus and Gemini, this is not going to be a war like pew pew pew. Like yes, there is going to be that, but it's going to be a lot more technological. And right now they are spending millions of dollars, billions of dollars into software, AI software to figure out where people are, to triangulate your location, to hack into your cell phone, to use facial recognition. Um, and although nobody's really talking about it yet, I'm over here seeing a lot of drone technology happening, and I'm concerned about these two coming together and ICE using drone technology to really pinpoint people. And I don't like saying that, but I feel like that's going to happen. I don't know when, but that's what I'm concerned about. And then the other thing you mentioned, I love that the Akasha said that millennials are some of the same people that lived, that founded America, because I've seen that astrologically. Specifically millennials. I can't remember what age range of millennials, if it's, I think it's like mid-range millennials. I'll have to
It's
double
different
check.
depending upon who you talk to. It's so
Yeah.
annoying.
It's, but basically, it's the Pluto and Scorpio generation. It's a very tiny window. Very few people can be Pluto and Scorpio just because Pluto's on an elliptical. And basically, that's the same placement that our founding fathers had, and they're very revolutionary. And so millennials actually have a huge part to play in this. And that is another thing that I'm looking at with February, is that a piece of that is going to be going exact in February. And so we're going to see millennials really pushing back in February, and there's going to be a start of this revolution happening in February. I don't think it's going to like be a big bang boom sort of thing, but um, more of a technological pushback maybe and revolution. But yeah.
Yeah. And just kind of a little uh whatever promotional thing.
Mhm.
Obviously I did the 2026 Akashic forecast episode. Lauren also does monthly forecast episodes, and she looks at things utilizing like, you know, her psychic skills, tarot cards, but then also an astrology bent. So make sure to check that episode out as well. And that goes, I've watched yours for the last couple of months and really enjoyed it. So
Thank you.
that'll be an opportunity to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
The thing that I just kind of, sorry, did you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say like I'll save more of that for February because I could go on and on about it here, and I want to keep it
Because there's
concise.
so much.
There's
There's
so
so
much.
much. You know, the astrology podcast episode this month is going to be like
I
four
know,
hours.
like 8 hours, something like that.
um, we digress. Okay,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to kind of say, because this is like a really heavy topic, you know, the thing is that the ultimate purpose of ICE, of all like these things that are happening in the United States right now, is to get us uncomfortable enough to require change. And the thing is that what ICE is doing, ICE has been around for decades and decades. When I was in college, I had, you know, the Hispanic beat when I wrote for the Daily Tar Heel at Chapel Hill in North Carolina. I learned a lot about ICE. I learned a lot about their tactics. I learned about the things they were doing even then. So we're not necessarily seeing new things. We're seeing things come to the forefront that have already been taking place. And we need to remember that because, you know, the thing is with like Pluto moving into Aquarius, right? It's like Pluto always shows us the shadow first. And like I saw an article just yesterday about this Frenchman who dealt with ICE a couple of years ago and what they did to him and how horrifically they treated him. And these things have been going on, but we just haven't seen them.
Yep.
And it's important for us to understand the limit that or the, you know, the distance our government is willing to go for us. And right now we are seeing things very clearly. And so we have a decision to make about how much we're going to put up with, and in the 2026 Akashic forecast, that was something they said very clearly, like, this is only going to last as long as you want it to. And
Mm.
that is the beginning and the end, right? Um, because as soon as we get together and we unite and we stop making each other the enemy and we require change, we burn everything into the ground and we rebuild it. Like, there will be new in place.
Mhm.
And the last little tidbit before we dive into TikTok here that was really important, you know, um, in the midst of, what's going to be happening with ICE, people will lose their rights, people will suffer, and in some cases, people will lose their lives. And it's so important for us to remember that these lives are not lost in vain, right? As souls, we choose the role that we're going to play when we come in. Not only that, those who have been killed and will be killed in this process are serving a purpose for us.
Mm.
I mean, you look at like Renee's death, Alex's death, how much they have lit the fire for us. And, you know, even all of the people who have not been named in this process, because I think Renee was
Yeah.
actually like the 31st, 32nd person.
Yeah.
Um, it's unfortunate that we had to get to the white people before, but it's just the way it happens.
Yeah.
Bottom line is every single person is serving a purpose, and so we grieve for them. We grieve for their families, and yet I think it's important to offer up gratitude,
Yeah.
for their sacrifice and the role that they're playing for us right now.
Mhm.
The Akasha was like, it's just like during COVID, the people who passed away during COVID were allowing more space for the overall vibration of the planet to rise, for things to start shifting into a new time. So, everyone's serving a purpose right now.
Mm.
Um,
Couldn't
did you
agree
want
more.
to kind of speak into that at all before we dive into TikTok?
I mean, I totally agree, and I've picked up something similar for future events, future more casualties, bigger amounts of casualties. But we'll save that for a different day.
Yes. Yeah.
Different day.
Yes. Yes. All right. TikTok. Why don't you kick this one off, Miss Lauren? Because I
Yes,
know
I
you got a
am
lot on
passionate about
TikTok.
this one.
I know.
I think it's because like you were talking earlier about how you're getting more people coming around and being like, "Okay, I'm listening." I've gotten the opposite with TikTok and I'm just like, "I get it. TikTok's fun, but like you got to draw the line somewhere." And so let me just start by prefacing that, you probably have heard about TikTok and the amount of like down like undownloads or uninstalls it's had and stuff. And so the reason for that is that last January of 25, it was sold to Oracle. It was being forced to be sold to Oracle. And so since then, it's been transitioning and going through that whole process. And then, or was it sold? I'm sorry, it was sold on September of last year. And this January is, oh my God. Hang on, you might have to cut this because I just got all that wrong. Hang on, let me restart over. Or you can keep it in, whatever.
Well, it was back and forth for so long. I mean, it's like, so I can
I just,
understand like kind of the confusion with like the timeline, because it's even been confusing to me until
yes.
weirdo guy took
Oh, I
over.
see what it is. I just put my notes in the wrong order. Okay, so it was sold on September 21st of last year, on a Virgo eclipse, which I'll come back to that. But and before in 2025 of January, that's when the app like shut down for like 24 hours
I
and everyone
remember
was like,
that.
bye, and everyone was saying goodbye to each other and it was like a blackout. But the cool tidbit about that is just that that day astrologically was the same like cycles that Vine and MySpace shut down. So ever since then, and I made a
Oh.
prediction. I recorded a little short video. I was like, TikTok's done. Like it's done. I don't know when, but it's not coming back. And so September it gets sold, and then January of this year, the 22nd, which was last week, they basically moved over to new terms and conditions, and I think a new algorithm. And so basically, people have not been liking that new algorithm, and I feel compelled to let everyone know who's still on the fence about choosing TikTok. Like it's now able to track your location, your personal beliefs, your sexual preferences, your religious beliefs, your citizenship status. And it can also record audio and video in the background while you're using the app. It can use facial recognition to profile you, and it's using all of this data to train AI. And this is where I get the pushback of everyone's like, well, yeah, whatever. Like all of our apps are doing this. But the main issue is that the person who owns Oracle, Larry Ellison, he is like a huge surveillance weirdo, and he owns so many companies that basically use his data center, which is called Oracle, and he sells this data freely to people. And he basically gives a lot of his data to Palantir. And if you guys know who Palantir is, they're basically like a militarized AI company that uses online data to track and like kill people for a military perspective. But Palantir's ethics lately have not been so good, and people believe that they're going to be used to target, well, they have been used to target immigrants. Um, and essentially, what I'm trying to get at here is that if you stay on TikTok, what you're doing is if you are in any way against Trump, his regime, you are kind of handing them all of your data about you, access to you, video files, all about you, about your family. And my fear is that that's going to get in the hands of Palantir. It's going to get in the hands of some of these other companies. And essentially, like I was talking about earlier, Palantir has access to these drones. They have access to huge military grade stuff. And so my husband put it in a really much easier to understand. Like if Oracle is the computer, Palantir is like the operating system that that computer runs on. So it's like Windows, and TikTok is like the web camera. And so, if we can kind of look at it in this perspective, I really believe that TikTok is going to be used to track people, to target people, to find people, hurt them, possibly even kill them. And because of the dates and significance of the that it falls on these eclipses, I think it has a much bigger story to play out. I don't think it's going to disappear for a while, but it's going to be a big part of this story of whatever the US is going through. And so that's why I'm just recommending everyone get off of it now. I'm gonna stop there. More wanted to start with just like, hey guys, let's be careful with our digital privacy.
No, I think that's really helpful, especially for
Mhm,
anyone who may not understand kind of the backstory and then
mhm,
also the reasons why to get off.
mhm.
Like I saw someone on Thread, she was like, "What are you guys doing? TikTok, like, don't be foolish. Like, TikTok just wants you to get off the app. They
Yeah.
just want you to disappear." And I'm like, "No, honey."
Mhm.
When you like, they're so censoring, like, you can't even say Epstein via a
Yeah.
private message now. Like, that is censorship. This is not like they're not playing around. I know that because I jumped on the account, or I jumped on because I don't have TikTok on my phone.
Mhm.
While I was sick, kind of leading up to this, it was like downloading it and then deleting it the same day because I can't be on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not to be trusted with TikTok stores, as I told Lauren
Yes.
before. I have way too many things arriving this week that I ordered when I was sick. By the way, anyway, um, but I had downloaded it after that sort of like takeover thing, looked at the terms and conditions, and it was wild because I couldn't search any of the important topics, finding anything about what was happening in Minneapolis. Like it's a very different app.
Mhm.
And I didn't like sign in with the I was just kind of curious to check it out.
Yeah.
And that guy who owns Oracle, I had never seen his photo before, but as soon as I did, oh my gosh, his energy, like in and of itself,
Yeah.
even I would be off the app immediately. Like anything that he is connected to, I do not want to be connected to, because that is
Yeah.
like dark, gross, icky energy.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're a business owner, then you know a business is always representative of the person, the founder, who's behind the scenes
Yep.
or in front of the company, whatever. Um, I think it's really important to understand too, and when I kind of tuned into this from an Akashic perspective, what I asked specifically is what is happening with the TikTok takeover, and what does it say about censorship in the United States?
Hmm.
And of course, censorship is nothing new, right? But again, kind of similar to ICE, it's just becoming very visible, right?
Hmm.
And the people in power are using TikTok to test our limits, to see how much the public will tolerate in regards to our privacy before we actually push back, right? So this is like very much like a probing phase, to measure the resistance in regards to our privacy, to our information. And make no mistake about it, Meta's next. Like this is
Yes.
this is just going to start unfolding um, across the platforms. And I shared in the 2026 Akashic forecast, like I had already had plans this year to start bringing my audience into to my own little world on my website,
Hmm.
email, those things again, because you better believe like folks like Lauryn and I will absolutely be targeted because of what we've said, what we've shared online, how we open up.
Hmm.
But then also in regards to our businesses, my heart goes out to people who have built their livelihood on TikTok,
Yeah.
and now that's gone. As the retired CEO of a marketing agency, I always told my clients to never do this, because I knew this would happen at some point with one platform or another.
Hmm.
But still, as a business owner, there's a couple of people that I did really love on TikTok, and I'm just like, are they
Yeah.
okay? I hope they're okay. You know, um, and it'll be what it will be. But I definitely saw like TikTok, like Lauren's talking about, right? Um, being utilized to monitor its users moving forward, period. That's all it cares about, and all the full intention behind it, right? And they're going to be looking at, the Akasha said specifically, people with large audiences, dissenting voices, anti-administration messaging, right? In addition to being able to identify, track individuals like Lauryn was talking about,
Hmm.
and it's honestly really scary, because I am concerned about the people who don't have as much access to information,
Yeah.
especially within the Hispanic community, because I know that the ways in which they digest news is very differently. And I
Hmm.
hope that they kind of are able to understand, what's taking place right now,
Hmm.
because unfortunately I think there's still a good amount of the population, who think that they're okay, they're safe playing around online. I mean, we all know we're being monitored a bit, but not
Yeah.
to the extent that TikTok is now monitoring its people.
Hmm.
So Lauryn, go ahead and jump in. I'm sure you've got stuff we can there's so much
Yeah.
here.
No, I realize I basically covered it all right in one shot. But I think, yeah, I pulled some cards on it, but this just, there's nothing new to add here, really. It's like say goodbye to the ethics of the company is what this means with the ship and the lily card. And then I also pulled the scythe, which is saying very dangerous, very quick, bad ethics and saying goodbye of the ethics. It's going to be a very quick turnaround. And yeah, I think other than that, like I'm just interested to see how it'll play out. And again, it keeps falling on the Virgo Pisces eclipses. So if anyone really wants to take notes, it'll be happening again on March 3rd. And then this fall, we have another eclipse, and then there's going to be one more of February next year. So there's going to be something that plays out with TikTok each time those come up. So I wouldn't be surprised if it ends with its downfall. Um, But yeah, it's at the same time, I just also want to, yeah, agree that it's not that we're discouraging connection because that's so important. And I think that one of the rumblings I've heard is about another app called BitChat that doesn't use Wi-Fi, that doesn't use, I do not know all the technical jargon, but it doesn't use like any of this stuff, data, and it uses like location, like Bluetooth maybe, so
Hmm.
that everyone can connect even if there's power outages. So yeah, maybe look into BitChat, and that might be a good alternative to just have saved in your phone as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw that the Europeans are releasing a couple of apps as well. I've
I
seen that
saw
like they're
that.
still very much in beta, but that they are also because the governments are also very concerned about like even having Meta in their countries. And,
Yeah.
when I looked at like the role of TikTok and kind of one of the like the Akasha showed me that some of the reasons that like, the officials went after this is because within TikTok, like there was so much information that spread too freely.
Yes.
Again, Facebook has already been censoring for a while Meta
Yeah.
products. It's been shutting down way more than you even realize. But TikTok was not. And so a
Hmm.
lot of people really depended on TikTok to get their news and to see live things that were happening, regardless of what you think about TikTok. Like it actually was very much kind of a freedom of free speech,
Hmm.
especially here within the United States. Um, and so they they want to control the narrative within the United States. I know, like even when I put up our clip, just the other day from our last episode,
Uh-huh.
for the first like 3 hours it was at zero. It just sat at zero views on Instagram, on Facebook. Like they're just censoring things now, and I had to like ask the community, like ask a couple friends, like, hey, will you like share this, because like just get it moving,
That's
get it
crazy.
out there.
Yeah.
We definitely want you to connect with people. You need to stay abreast of what's going on. And I know that in the midst of this, there are going to be new solutions coming out. So we just need to keep our ears open for
Yeah.
that. But moving back into email is going to be huge. That was something that the Akasha very much said, that like email is actually a very safe platform for the time being. And returning to the old ways of communicating. So if creating like a text messaging group with the people in your community.
Hmm.
Nextdoor is a great app for community engagement. That being said, if there are people, like maybe start a group yourself, initiate that, so that you all can be in connection with each other outside of these apps. Because unfortunately, these apps are going to be facing a lot of pressure in the next couple of years, to hand over user data,
Yeah.
to grant the government access. One of the apps that I absolutely love, I've used in my business for years, is Telegram.
Mm.
The founder, it's self-funded. He is, I think he's Russian, actually. He was arrested by France last year because he wouldn't hand over information. He is
Oh, okay.
like, he is fierce. He's rebellious.
I
And
love it.
so, like, it's a great platform for starting, groups, bringing communities together. Um,
Okay. Good to know.
but, um, but yes.
Yeah.
So,
I might piggyback off that really quick too.
yeah.
And I think I actually just bought my son a it's like a fake landline phone, but it's like it looks like a landline phone, but it connects through Wi-Fi and he can call people and it doesn't do anything else. And you just like punch in the numbers so he can call grandma and everybody else. And so
Nice.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get this like resurgence of like flip phones, landlines. Um, Anyways, that was just a fun aside. But I do think cybersecurity is going to be of utmost importance. I'm a little bit concerned about Windows 11 and all of this. I don't want to get into it here, but if you are curious about that, I'm going to, in my own podcast that's coming up, cover cybersecurity recommendations that I would encourage everyone to do. Because again, with Uranus and Gemini, I just think that there's going to be a lot of cyber attacks. And it's already happening happened. It's just, I don't think a lot of people have seen them because it hasn't affected us super directly yet. I mean, there has been a couple things, like there was a Verizon outage. There's been a couple times like where there was like a cloud system down and it all affected, we couldn't work that day a couple months ago. But yeah, just wanted to share that I think that's also of importance as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I called my landlord and was like, the ring on my front door, this is like disconnected, right? And he was like, yes. And I still put freaking duct tape all over it.
That's
um,
on my to-do list.
oh,
I need to deal with
I've
that.
been watching like Frasier lately, like revisiting that show. I
Uh-huh.
loved it so much back in the day. And like the with their little flip phones, and I'm just like, oh, those days, like my razor. Ooh, I
Yeah.
love my razor. I mean, like, come on, they were amazing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be angry to go back to that. Like,
Yeah.
I'd prefer to do it under different circumstances. But
Yes, right.
um, all right. So anything else that you want to kind of cover before we dive into let's
I'm
dive into
good.
Trump's health, because I know you've been really excited about this topic. And the thing I want to say about this, folks, just from the get-go, because there has been so much focus and attention on Trump's health. He's going to die. He's going to pass away anytime soon. Oh, this is when it's going to happen. It started happening last year. And, we got the astrologers tuning in. We got the psychics tuning in. We've got like everyone kind of tuning in. And I just want to encourage you from the get-go to stop believing that what is happening is connected to any one person. There's no one person who can disappear right now, who can die right now, that will actually affect
Mm,
change. And this kind of goes back to this, this border, like this bottom line sort of conditioning, these ideals that we have associated to religion, whether or not you grew up in religiosity or not, that one person's going to save us, or that someone's going to save us, or, ooh, the death of someone's going to save us.
yeah.
I don't freaking care who it is. Like, we've got to let go of this idea, because we are in it. We're in it. It's not going anywhere. And no matter what happens to Trump or to anyone else who steps up, it's going to continue again until we stop it,
Mm,
until we rebuild, till we burn to the ground what is in place and rebuild it. And I just want to be really direct about that on the front end, because it's a waste of time and energy to be pouring into that. And also, like, why are we wanting to manifest that when, I don't know about you, but I've known for months now that I've known since 2016, Trump is the emperor with no clothes on the front line.
mm,
He is the parody. He is the joke.
yeah.
He is the puppet. And the real evil is behind him.
Hmm.
So, Miss Lauren, you want to kick
Yeah.
this off?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think I've seen so many people like, this is the day he's gonna die, and then I see the midterms happening, and then we're gonna vote, and then and it's all gonna be better by December, and I'm like, and like, maybe not. I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to hope that too. But just from what I've looked at and researched, I don't think it's gonna be that easy. And again, it's the people in power behind him. They've changed the laws, they've changed the system so much that they don't even really need him anymore. Like they've gotten what they need. And so yeah, it's the ousting of them that will come next. I don't think Vance will hold as much power, but it's the systems that hold him up that will keep him there. But he won't have um the following that Trump does. And I do think another, I know I keep talking about February. Another thing happening in February is the MAGA base is gonna crack. Something's gonna happen. I mean, they're already cracking just bit by bit, but there's gonna be another event in February that they're gonna crack even more. But as far as Trump, I'm not even gonna guess a date anymore. I was guessing a date. I was guessing actually this January for the longest time because I had three different dreams of him dying that I didn't ask for. And they just came to me in very vivid dreams at various times last year. I recorded them. access them on my Psychic Development Society. I've also talked about them. I could go into them a little bit, I guess and then I'll maybe pass it back to you. But the first dream I had, he was on a yacht and he was in the Mediterranean. He got off the yacht and he clutched his chest and then he got up and he was fine. That was the first dream I had. So I was like, okay, heart problem. It's being hidden and people don't know. The second dream I had was he was at a conference. He was being filmed at the White House and he was signing something and then he gets up and he walks off camera and then he falls, clutches his heart again. People go to like help him and he doesn't die again. So again, I was getting heart things hidden behind the scenes. We don't see it. And then the third dream I had was like way into the future and it was that I was out drinking in a university. I felt like I was actually in a physical location where this is going to happen. And all of a sudden there a hospital next to me and the siren starts going off apparently and everyone just starts screaming out of excitement and running towards the hospital because they know Trump is inside. He's dying and everyone's like, oh my God, everyone's like clutching each other, hugging each other. And in the dream I just remember like falling to my knees and being like, I knew it. And at the time I was like, that's weird because I hadn't predicted his death really at all. And so yeah, in the dream he actually dies. And so it's coming. I'm not the only psychic who's picked up on this. Yes, you could attribute it to wishful thinking, but at the same time, we've seen so many medical professionals commenting the fact that he's got like devices on him and all of his symptoms. He's got his hand weirdness going on. But yeah, when I woke up from that last dream, I was kind of in that in between space where I'm like half awake, half asleep. And I always say that's a really good spot if you can nab it to ask a question. And I said when, and I heard January of 26. And as of now, we got 2 days left. So I don't know if that one's coming true, but we'll see. So yeah, I'll pass it back to you now.
That would be wild. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that there would be quite a bit of celebration regardless, if he
Yes.
did.
Hmm.
Um, so a couple of things. The Akashic Records showed me very clearly his health is rapidly declining. It's because of extreme stress, overextension, very poor lifestyle habits. He is a Leo rising, so heart thing would be super aligned.
Yep.
He just like the way that they were showing me him is he feels so defeated right now. He knows he's surrounded by people he can't trust, but he kind of has no choice but to lean on them because that's who he's put in place. He also knows that they're manipulating him, right? And that's the thing. It's like these people, all that they've had to do is stroke his ego. I mean, it's like full on manipulation. And when you are dealing with like a malignant narcissist like Donald Trump, that's really all you have to do to kind of get what you want,
Yeah.
and it's not like his upbringing and those sorts of things aren't playing into that. um and they did say that he was going to die very quickly, but they also said that of course that could shift at any moment, because the
Mm.
thing is whenever we're looking at a timeline, right, it's with the understanding that a timeline can shift.
Yeah.
So if something crazy happened and he woke up today, and said like, I'm going to start taking better care of myself. I'm going to like, they were literally showing me like him doing things that actually bring him joy more instead of being so stressed out. Like I saw him at like 2 a.m., like pounding away on his like cell phone, to be online. Right.
Yeah.
And being so plugged in that it's literally like aging him by the day.
Mm.
He is becoming more and more decrepit. But like if he woke up tomorrow and said, you know what, I'm going to kind of like let these people handle things for a while. I'm going to go golfing a lot more. I'm going to, do the things that bring me joy, that would actually start really shifting things for
Yeah.
him health wise. But it is his very much his, like he is not taking care of his body. He is not like, he's not in shape. He's, and so, if he did pass away, then it would be from a natural, just like age, type of death, but very much subscribe to a lot of the stress that he's been going through. Um, in regards to what would take place, understanding that Trump is, and this is so huge. This kind of came up, but there was a quote that I saw online the other day, and I apologize, I did not like dig in to go bring this up for this episode, um,
Okay.
because it was interesting when the Akasha brought this forward. But it's like, countries get the leader that they deserve,
Mm,
right? And Trump is a symptom of our systems. He's not the root cause, and that's why it's
yeah.
so, we don't need to waste time being like, "Ooh, if Trump goes, everything's going to be okay," because it's not any like the issues are not people. They're the systems that our nation were built on, right? The lobbyists and the lifetime terms for politicians, and the all of the things that like pull people in, even good people, and then like change them in the midst of that
Mm,
process. Not to mention the very corrupt people, because power and money is extremely attractive to the majority of us. And there are very few humans that aren't changed once they have the opportunity to, gain power, gain money.
hmm.
Um, and so like when we look at Donald Trump, it's important to realize like his viewpoint, right? The Akasha was showing me so much around his childhood. And honestly, it was very
Huh.
sad, right? But they were
Yeah.
saying like his worldview was shaped by his privilege, the praise he had, the lack of praise he had growing
Hmm.
up, that early conditioning to utilize power and status to dominate other people. And I just saw him as a young boy, like seeking to control his environment because he never received love. He never received like true attention. Everything was measured and weighed for him. And, um, the psychology world has really come a long way in regards to talking about narcissism and where narcissism comes from and how that can actually be developed in someone's life.
Mm,
And the Akasha showed me like, his father played a huge role in all of this development. And so we have to understand that when we look at Trump, like he truly is just a system of our society, and it's ugly and it's awful. And that's what we're being forced to look at because, again, whether it's ICE, whether it's censorship, whether it's any of these things, like this is not new,
hmm.
but we have to see what's going on before we can actually change it.
Hmm.
Right. Um, so I'll pause there for a moment.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a reflection and it's getting amplified because that pendulum is just like swinging the other way, like, hey, is anybody going to wake up? Is anybody going to do anything about this?
Yeah.
And I forgot to say on top of the heart stuff, I think he has I think it's called FTD, frontal temporal dementia. It's a specific type of dementia that also makes you like super ridiculously sure of yourself and still actually kind of like with it in some aspects. And I know with like a heart condition and this combined, again, this is from other medical professionals that talk about it. It's kind of almost like any bad slip, any bad fall could almost like do you in. And I was talking with like one of my students the other night and I was talking about like, hey, have you guys ever felt like, 'cause sometimes as psychics, you or mediums, you kind of feel like somebody might pass away. And we talk about the ethics around that and like, you don't say that and you keep it to yourself and what do you do with that information? But and we kind of talked about and she brought up exit points and I loved this phrasing of like we all have various exit points and we can choose whether or not to take it. And there was one time back in August that I think Trump He like disappeared for like a week. I don't know if you remember that. And like everyone's like, where the hell is he? And everyone was like so excited, like, oh my gosh, he might be dead. And I felt like he had a stroke. And obviously we never knew, we never heard anything, and he slowly like crept back in, and there was some photos shared of him, and there was a question of like, was it AI? Was he hiding? And obviously he was like still okay. And so I wonder if even in January now, if he had an exit point, again, to use my student's term, and how many more he'll have that he might not choose. And so yesterday I was kind of pulling cards on this, and I was asking like, how do we know when he's close? And I was trying to get like timing on this, and basically it just wasn't coming through, and I kind of gave up on it because I was like, okay, I'm not supposed to know, or it's too malleable and it's not happening. But it was really interesting because I kept getting readings with like a woman, and I kept pulling this woman card, and it was like when a woman comes and talks about his success. I pulled like the woman and the sun card together. And then I got when a woman comes and deceives him. And so I was sitting here thinking like, who could that be? Is it Melania? Is it I don't know, the press secretary? Like, and I was trying to go through the list of all these women, and then I was like, who is this? And I pulled another card, and then I pulled the justice card using my tarot. And then I just kind of had this full download. I remember earlier last year, I talked to Lady Justice. I've only ever talked to her once, like as like a guide, as an entity. Um, and I felt like I was like, oh, that's who this is. And I kind of got the impression that she gets to decide when he's done. And I was like, hell yeah. And I don't, it's hard to explain how I knew this, but I just kind of knew it, which was claircognizant. And I didn't look this up before we started, but I think Lady Justice is literally on one of our buildings in DC. Like she's blindfolded and maybe she has wings and she's on one of those buildings and she actually watches over DC. There's like apparently a lot of lore around her, but anyways, I kind of got the impression from her of like he needs to fully push his limit so that justice can then be done back to him. And so I'll kind of like end it with he, like you said, he's a Leo. He's a Leo rising, and I do know that astrologically the community is looking at August 12th. There's an eclipse, a Leo eclipse. So maybe again, I'm not throwing that out. But it will have a pretty big impact on his health. And actually this Sunday is a Leo full moon. So we're probably
Yep.
going to get a little bit of a preview of that. So this might already have come out after that. But I asked any other thing you can give me. And I used a different deck, which I forgot to bring, and I pulled the card North Star. And it immediately had me thinking of his North Node. And apparently, on that same August 12th eclipse, I think his North Node. Oh, shoot, I should have double checked. Oh, yeah, his North Node is. Oh, his lot of. Oh, my God, essentially his body, the lot of fortune, there's a lot of stuff happening on his north node with his physical body. So it could be a potentially rough transit for him. I hope it doesn't take as long as August. But again, to your point, this isn't going to solve anything, so I don't think we should put all of our cards in this basket. It's definitely going to be like a Stalin takeover. Like after Stalin died, everybody tried to pounce and grab for power, and that's what we kind of need to be prepared for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to go well. The Akasha said that, his last gasp will involve escalation, resistance, potential atrocities. He's definitely not going to go quietly. And the people who step forward are going to, at least at this point in time, and again, this is future timelines. So, but the thing that I saw with people stepping forward is it's going to be not the people that we've been seeing, who are with him and within his party. But it's almost like I saw this like shadow figure, this person who actually has been on the back end, who's been orchestrating so much of this, but we haven't been seeing his face, will actually kind of step in. And he
Mm.
won't necessarily um, be like the president. He's not going to be the president, obviously. But point just being is that, because JD Vance is the VP, but like you said, like he's got no clout. He's got no
Yeah.
influence. Everybody knows he's like, a yes man. Like he's whatever. And so you can guarantee that even though he may be acting president, but he will not be making the decisions at all. So there will
Hmm.
be someone else moving to the forefront. And I
Yeah.
definitely see, quite frankly, that like this is very much the real evil that will be moving into place. And when I say real evil, what I mean by that is like intellectual evil.
Yeah.
Trump is a fool. Trump is yeah, he's just the front man. He can, because he's a narcissist, he takes the brunt. And that's why we see him acting like a child when he doesn't get what he wants. But like the real evil is the intelligent evil behind him.
Hmm.
Um, and I can say like they really showed me like they're like his last phase of life that he's in right now. He's like burning himself out. He's completely operating from rage and desperation, and he is grieving the realization that he's never like that his vision for America is like not going to come true. Like he's not going to see it. He knows it, and he's
Yeah.
just like that's kind of why he's like, grasping at straws right now.
Hmm.
Um, and I know earlier today I had seen that he said that they're going to be backing ICE is going to be backing off Minneapolis.
Yeah, I
I
saw
feel
that
like we
too.
might even see some softness from him kind of
Mm.
um, leading up just because he's like wanting that praise and that approval so much. But
Mm.
it's going to be interesting. It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even, I'm just like, my head is swirling. I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? What advice do we give?
Well, I think when
Um,
it comes to Trump, again, I mean, like the bottom line is, and this is why I really wanted to be direct about it from the get go, like,
yeah.
we don't need to put all of our eggs in one basket. We don't need
Hmm.
to assume, like, regardless of this, if Trump goes, as a collective within the United States, it is still our responsibility to get involved, to be engaged, to be ready and prepared. I mean, I am like one of the reasons I'm such a huge fan of forecasts is because, like, if I know we're stepping into difficult energy, guess what? I can decide ahead of time how I'm going
Hmm.
to be prepared for that, how I'm mentally going to move through that. And
Yeah.
we need to be doing that in these times. I actually like in the midst of my like, being sick, I was like checking out a bunch of new psychics online, and I watched this like 2026 psychic, and she was like talking about how the economy is going to be amazing in the United States, and like it's Americans are going to be so happy this year. And I'm just like, what
What?
timeline are you living on, woman? Like I would love this for us, but like we're in it. And we
Yeah.
need to, I think there's a level of acceptance we need to step into with this,
Hmm.
that regardless of what happens, like it's what we have to move through collectively right now. And
Yeah.
so we need to take care of ourselves, need to take care of our families. And we just need to stay vigilant.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think again to our point, I don't know if we made this point the first time or the last time, it's what role do you want to play, in all of this? And it's totally cool if you need to take the back burner and kind of, watch from the sidelines, or maybe you decide you want to move. I would recommend starting making those plans now. And again, not to scare people, but now that we're in 2026, I think I'm personally taking a little bit more of a direct approach. And I'm being a little bit more direct of there's not very much time left to tiptoe around what's happening. And so we're going to be facing it a lot more in the coming months for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Akashic Records did say, and I can't remember if it was in the February Akashic
Hmm.
forecast or if in the reading that I did for this, but they said, look, no matter where you go on the planet right now, like you're going to be affected by what's taking place, because what's happening here in the US is just going to be spreading across the globe. And
Hmm.
so they were like, yeah, it was the February Akashic forecast, which
Okay.
what they said was, we invite you, and they actually provided like journaling prompts and things like that I gave with the episode, but
That's
to
so
help
cool.
you really kind of dig into, like, why do you feel like running? What are you scared of? What purpose might be serving you to be in the current place that you're at?
Hmm.
Just kind of sitting with what's going on versus that like knee jerk reaction. And like, if you're in that space, I'm with you. I
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
No shame. I'm
Yes.
like, Mexico.
I know, yeah. The amount of times I've tried to look and research moving out of the country and then basically everywhere dead end, dead end, dead end because
Yes,
we're
yes.
self-employed, me and my husband. So it's like we can't just unless we're gonna visa hop. So I'm kind of like, all right, I'm supposed to be here. And so now I've got to figure out what that means.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, Miss Lauren. So, what do you have coming up in the month ahead that you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, in the month ahead, I've got, let's see, we've got guest workshops coming in for the Psychic Development Society. We're constantly running events over there. So if you're wanting to practice your psychic development, you can join us and access all of our practice nights, coaching calls. I think Anna might be joining us and teaching a guest
Whoop
workshop soon.
whoop.
Not necessarily in February, but soon. And then what else do we got? I'm just kind of plugging away, still trying to find people who want to join me on my Ireland trip. So I'm looking for one more person to join us in Ireland. And we're going in August. So if you're curious on more details on that, you can visit my website, my YouTube. I have all sorts of information, even on my Instagram. Yeah, we're going over to Ireland to reset, get grounded, reconnect with our intuition, get clear, and we're doing it on an eclipse. Whoops. So it's a once in a lifetime trip, really, because the eclipse is going right over Ireland when we're there. So we're really utilizing that energy to just start fresh. So I'm really excited about bringing a group together over there.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
That's super
I'm
cool.
so excited.
Beautiful. Well, on my end, my entire back end is being currently rebuilt. So right now, my big call to action is, if you would still like to book a 2026 Akashic Soul reading with me, highly recommend diving in. I only open up my books like 1 to 2 times a year. And in this session, we'll be diving into the themes for the year, your lessons, like your challenges, anything that's really important for you. So there is like a set number of questions, but you also can bring your own questions if that feels more aligned for you. But yeah, dive in, grab one of those while they're available, and look out for so many more other things coming. I can't wait. But we'll stay there for now. All right, Miss Lauren, thank you so much for being here
Yes, thanks.
and sharing your wisdom and your heart with us.
Thanks for having me. As always, I love it.
Yes, yes, yes. And so much more to come.
Mm.
Folks, don't forget that if there's a topic that you'd like us to cover, leave us a comment. You can connect with either one of us, send us a message, be like, oh, I'd
Mhm.
love to learn about this thing. And if it feels aligned for us, then we'll dive into it. But thank you so much for being here. We send you a lot of love, a lot of encouragement, a lot of just like, hey, take it one day at a time. Please take care of yourself right now. So thank you so much for tuning in with us and sharing your time. And don't forget, when you invest in yourself, the world benefits. Until next time.